So here we go again. I have been trying to record this bit for a very long time. I keep getting interrupted by my family, and perhaps that is God's way of saying that this is a mistake. But I am renowned for my ability to ignore God and his demands. Or her, or that, I don't know. We'll just go with him because Jesus is God and God is Jesus, and this wasn't supposed to be about theology. This was supposed to be about vexillology, which is an impossible word to say, and I will try to avoid it from here on out. Okay. No, I'm not gonna. So, the meaning of the word is the study of flags. Ology, of course, being the suffix meaning study of, and the first half coming from a Latin word, vexillium, which roughly translates to flag. This word was invented sometime in the 50s, yes, by a man named Whitney Smith, who pioneered the study of flags. He is sort of the man that brought the concept of a scholarly study of flags into the limelight. And as time has gone by, a sort of set rule of guidelines have been adopted. I will go through these guidelines with you and give some examples. So the first rule is pretty obvious. It's to keep it simple. The rule of thumb is that a young child, perhaps under 10 years old, should be able to draw this flag from memory. And there are some very good examples of this. France and Italy and Germany and Belgium. All these flags are the tricolors, which is pretty obvious in its meaning. 3 bars, either horizontal or vertical, that have distinctive colorings to them. The downside of that is when you're learning flags, if some countries have very similar colors, you are going to encounter issues. And remembering the coloring of Belgium versus Germany, or the flag of which one is Belgium and which one is Germany, can be pretty tough. But they are symbol flags, and that is fulfilling the requirement. There are some very bad flags if you want to know what breaks this rule. And I would encourage you to Google the Liberian county flags for a pleasurable experience. There is also the flag of Two Sicilies, which is a masterwork of breaking this idea. But the next point is using meaningful symbolism, and this is it makes sense, right? The colors used should represent the national idea, and the patterns and the crests that are put on. For example, the flag of Portugal has a crest on it, and that crest represents the nation of Portugal. And the colors are Republican colors, Republican meaning in favor of the Republic, not the American Republicans of the modern era. Completely different thing. Because before, the Portuguese flag had a white and cyan coloring. Beautiful flag, but the colors were representative of the democracy. So when the monarchy was overthrown in 1911, I believe, the flag was changed so as to better reflect the governmental body, which was now a republic. Speaking of colors, our next point is to use basic colors and to use few basic colors. And by that, they mean you should be able to communicate the ideas with as little need for an immense amount of fabric as possible. And going once again to Europe, countries like the Netherlands and Luxembourg and Poland all do this spectacularly. And colors are important because colors are used for identifying the ideas of a country. Most nations, the vast majority of nations use, well, maybe not the vast majority, I take that back. Some nations, uh, some nations use the colors of red, white, and blue, which is very American, but not really, because it is also very Dutch and very Luxembourgian, and very French and very British and very Russian, and I could go on. But these colors represent different things to different people. Red in some countries is used as a symbol of bravery, but red can also and is commonly used to represent the soldiers. And I just got a DM on Discord that's just said epic sex time. uh but moving on, red can also represent the blood of soldiers who have died for the country and to protect the country. And blue in the US, I believe, represents justice. And it's just simple things like that. And also just the color, just make it look good. Like, you won't get away with putting yellow on, like a small bit of yellow on white, because at a distance, white and yellow can be easily confused. And that brings us to our next point. The flag needs to be distinctive. If it is waving in the wind, you must be able to take a look at it and say, I know what that flag is. If you see a flag of France versus Italy, who I commonly refer to, the two first colors are the same, but they have the final third as different, as Italy uses green and France uses blue. And because of this, they are distinctive nations, or distinctive flags. You can tell what it is at a glance. And there's a lot of flags that fail to do this, especially in the United States. the state flag of Michigan and New York and about 20 other states look exactly the same at a distance, something that I personally am working to change. And that ties in with the final point of no lettering or seals, because U.S. state flags tend to be seals on a sheet, as it is referred to as, because it is quite literally the state seal just slapped onto a navy blue sheet and flown in the wind. And I believe this trend started during the Civil War because there was a need to know. My goodness. Alright, so that meant I just got interrupted. Oh my goodness, my dog is barking. I am. I am so sorry. This was not supposed to happen. Oh god, I have to cut all of that out. My dog is just going nuts. Okay. Where was I exactly? I don't know. I think I was talking about. Oh, yeah, I was Okay. So the trend of the seals on a sheet, I believe, started in the American Civil War because the states and their regiments needed to be identified, and the only real identifier at the time was a state seal. And because of that, they just used that to identify, and it worked. But unfortunately, a lot of states stuck with it, and that has led to some very ugly flags. Now, there's something I didn't cover for the Be Distinct point. They mention flags should be related, and this is something that isn't really thought of, but is a powerful tool in association. If you look at the flags of the United States and Liberia, you will note that they are very similar flags. This is because Liberia was an African colony somewhat. It's strange, to say the least. But it was done on purpose. Liberia modeled their flag after America because the settlers had come from the United States. Similarly, the flags of Scandinavia are all notable for using the Christian cross. Denmark was the first to use this, and the other Scandinavian nations followed their lead, like Sweden and Norway and Finland all have, as well as Iceland, they all have the cross as their flag, and it is a powerful tool because anytime you see a flag with a cross done in Scandinavian style, you associate it with the Scandinavian nations. Greenland does not have this flag, and it is purposeful because I believe they try to distance themselves from their colonizer of Denmark, who they are still under the jurisdiction of. I believe they are highly autonomous. That could be entirely wrong, but it shows what association can do. Russia, for example, adopted a very European-style tricolor in order to have closer ties to Europe than to Asia. Then again, these rules are not rules. They are guidelines, and guidelines are meant to be broken. There are several flags that tend to break these rules. The most notable, in my opinion, would be South Africa. South Africa does not use 2 or 3 basic colors. They use a myriad of colors. They use so many colors, I believe is somewhere around 10. 7 to 10, I can't quite remember. And it is highly regarded as a beautiful flag, which doesn't make sense because it breaks the rule. But it does so in a way that keeps the sort of feeling of a flag. I'm not really sure if that makes sense, but you'll know it's sort of a sense. You'll know if you're looking at a good flag, right? There'll be some flags you'll see and you're like, it doesn't work. And it makes sense because flags are designed to be simple and they're designed to be almost old in a way. There are a lot of modern redesigns that you can just tell were made in the modern era because it has very large symbols and it has very curvy lines, and I don't think those work as flags really, because flags should be easily reproduced, especially in an ancient, not really ancient, but a medieval kingdom like the Duchy of Schleswig-Holstein needs a flag that is going to be easily made and doesn't require particular skill to be made. And in that sense, the United States flag really shouldn't have worked because it is a fairly complicated flag, especially in the old days. Nowadays, you can make flags super easy. Machines can just whip them up after you load in a template, but in the old times, it was all sewn by hand. And the Betsy Ross flag, which is misattributed because I believe it was her grandson made up the myth that his grandmother sewed the flag for Washington, which definitely didn't happen. Oh shit, I had to yawn. Putting myself to sleep. I lost my train of thought, but that's sort of really all I wanted to talk about, honestly. Just the basics of flags and flag design and all of the things that go with it. And I am no expert. There are people out there that can design gorgeous flags that just make your heart throb for how pretty it is, and I can't do that. I am nowhere near that level of just an understanding of what a flag should be and how to communicate what a flag should be. But I like to spread my knowledge on topics that really aren't that interesting to anybody that isn't just a massive nerd. But that's just me. I think I have rambled for far too long. How long has this gone? Oh Lord, it's like 20 minutes. Well, I hope this was enjoyable for you, and I hope that this isn't going to be a total flop, and people like realize that it was just because I was whispering into a shitty microphone is the only reason why it sounded good. But I actually have to trim this because my dog started barking in the middle of it. I'm probably going to upload this in the middle of the night so it like nobody can see it, even though that doesn't really work because people just stay up until the entire night basically. But besides that, thank you for joining me in my completely stupid ramble. And if you want more, I can find something to talk about, I guess. Like, I can just ramble about some shit that happened in history. Because I might be a history teacher. I don't really want to be a history teacher because I don't like kids, but my parents want me to be a history teacher. I don't know. We'll see. I should probably respond to my friend. Wow, I haven't been talking forever. Okay, I'm gonna cut this off now. I hope everybody has a very wonderful day. My dog is barking.